the annual meeting of Phoenix Art Museum. On behalf of the entire museum, we thank you for being here today in this socially distanced format. We will present an overview of the state of the museum and reflect on fiscal year 2020, which began July 1, 2019 and concluded June 30, 2020. We will also provide a glimpse into the first half of our fiscal year 2021. The history of Phoenix Art Museum is grounded in a spirit of volunteerism, beginning with a group of community members who raised funds in 1915 to purchase an artwork that would be the first seed in a city art collection. Today, that collection numbers more than 20,000 works, and millions of visitors have passed through our doors. This exponential growth has been made possible through the efforts of our volunteers, including community advocates, museum docents, who serve as volunteer educators, and volunteer leaders on our board of trustees. A year ago, when we last presented the state of the museum, we faced a period of transition and had embarked on a national search for a new director. Today, we are honored to have Dr. Tim Rodgers at the helm, leading this institution as its newest Sybil Harrington director and CEO. Our museum community will benefit from Tim's longtime experience as both a director and an arts scholar. You'll have an opportunity to hear from Tim later in our program. Tim is supported in his work by the museum's board of trustees, who serve in a fiduciary role and are responsible for the stewardship of the museum and its resources held in the public trust. This year, we express gratitude for trustees who have recently concluded their terms of service: Don Brandt, Mike Kahn, Rose Papp, and David Rousseau. On behalf of the board and museum staff, we thank each of these volunteer leaders for giving freely of their time and expertise to benefit our museum. Looking forward, we are pleased to welcome our incoming trustees and officers. As of this meeting, they are Rob Taylor, Gloria Cohen, and Ann Okanya. We are very grateful to have their knowledge and experience on our board. I'm also honored to announce our board officers. This year, our officers will include John Graham, Secretary, Blair Portugal, Treasurer, David Lenhart and Meredith von Ehrenstilt, who also will serve as vice chairs again, Don O'Patrony, who will serve as our chair-elect, and finally, I have returned this year as the chair of the Board of Trustees. Thank you. I'm humbled and honored. We also express gratitude to Carter Emerson, who served as my fellow co-chair last year, helping to lead the board and support the museum during a period of intense transition. Carter, along with his wife Susan, has faithfully supported the work of the Phoenix Art Museum, from meeting with community members to better understand their needs, to helping support the creation of the Legends of Speed exhibition, one of the most successful of the past decade. Carter, I appreciate all your help, and I'm so grateful you will continue to serve on the board and the executive committee. As we think about the impact of our board on the museum, I must also recognize 3 trustees who left an indelible mark. This year, the museum mourns the loss of 3 board members, each of whom dedicated themselves to our mission and our community. This year, we honor and remember Dennis Lyon, honorary trustee who passed away in 2019, Ray Slomsky, trustee who also passed away in 2019, and Amy Clegg, longtime honorary trustee who passed away in 2020. May their memories always be for a blessing. They are deeply missed. The museum also remembers longtime donors who supported our institution during their lives and who left a legacy of generosity. This year, we remember Gil Waldman, a longtime Circles of Support member and past trustee, Stephen Hoover, a longtime museum supporter, and William Bill Howard, a longtime Circles member and friend to Phoenix Art Museum. We remember each of these individuals, along with the more than 300,000 Americans who have lost their lives to the COVID-19 pandemic. As a local and global community who have endured so much heartache over the past year, and while we feel hope for the future, our hearts are with those of you who have suffered losses in your own family. We hope you may find comfort in the healing power of art, connection, and community. It has been a pleasure to speak with you today. I want to end my comments by talking about beginnings. We celebrated the museum's 60th birthday in November 2019. That means that for more than 60 years, Phoenix Art Museum has opened its doors at the corner of Central and McDowell. Over those 6 decades, we have enjoyed many incredible firsts, from first exhibitions to first acquisitions of art to new building expansions. But the museum has also been home to firsts of a different kind. For many, this was the first museum they have ever visited, the first time they saw works by Claude Monet or Frida Kahlo, or discovered the relics of Teotihuacan, the first time they discovered the artistry behind the design of a race car. This year also had many firsts. In March, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to close for an extended period of time for the first time in our history. And we continue to feel the significant impact of that closure and the continuing pandemic on our resources and our ability to serve our community. In October, we reopened and encouraged visitors to see their Phoenix Art Museum again for the first time with new safety requirements in place, including required masks, advanced ticket purchases, and a daily cap on visitation. There is a great deal to feel anxious about as we continue to navigate the pandemic, its economic and emotional effects. But at the end of the day, there remains quite a lot to be grateful for and to celebrate. We want to tell that story as well, the story of first visits and first loves, those important and powerful stories of the millions of visitors who have passed through our galleries over the past 60 years and made us the Phoenix Art Museum we are today. It is my great privilege to present to you now the museum's first short film, The First Time. In honor of beginnings and in gratitude for you, our members and visitors, consider this film a thank you letter from Phoenix Art Museum to you.
I remember the first time I saw you.
You.
You came here on a school bus.
On the train.
You walked.
You drove from Glendale,
The library.
down the street.
South Phoenix.
Milwaukee.
Mesa.
Nowhere in particular.
It was 1959,
1975.
Nissan Hachi.
96,
En el año pasado.
67.
The year of the monkey.
Yesterday.
Today.
I can't remember.
but I remember the way your face changed.
The way your eyes lit up. Moved.
How you stopped.
Stood.
Started to go.
Came back.
How you said, whoa, wow.
I don't get it.
I like that.
No me gusta.
Wow.
I love this.
I love this.
I loved this.
I remember each gallery, how you walked slowly.
When you sped up.
When you stayed behind to look.
What you skipped when you got it.
When you didn't.
When you loved.
When you fell in love. When you felt good here.
Happy here.
Alone here.
Solo aquí.
Small here.
Found here.
You. Here.
I remember when you moved through the dark, along the shore, in a windstorm.
In a place you forgot.
Through the stars. The stars.
The stars.
I'll never forget that.
I saw you,
How you changed.
How you've changed.
how you sang,
How you danced.
laughed,
Looked.
Lingered.
left.
How you've grown.
How time shaped you.
Broke you.
Built you.
Bent you.
Starved you.
Filled you up.
Filled us up.
I saw you.
Your world, your life.
How it got bigger.
How it shrank.
When it was small.
When it started to slip away.
I saw you when you came to celebrate.
When you came together.
Together.
Together. Apart.
When you became a mom.
A partner.
Something. Someone.
Un abuelito.
A widow.
A sister.
Alone.
I saw you the first time.
Every time.
The last time.
I saw you.
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 You. You. And you saw.
Everything.
Hello, I'm Mark Koenig, the Chief Financial and Operating Officer of Phoenix Art Museum. I will be providing a brief summary of the museum's financial status. We will review the progress we made during fiscal year 20, which ended June 30th, provide some insight into the impact of the pandemic on the museum's operations, and we will end with a look at some early trends that have emerged in fiscal year 21. We begin with a look back at the museum's performance in the fiscal year, which began on July 1, 2019 and concluded June 30th, 2020. Fiscal year 2020 was a unique year for the museum, to say the very least. The year began with the departure of Amada Cruz, who had served as the museum director and CEO since 2015. We quickly began a national search for a new director, which successfully ended in July 2020 with the appointment of Tim Rodgers. Our budget for the year set a conservative revenue goal of just under $11 million, including contributed and earned income, along with the annual draw from our endowment fund. The Board of Trustees understood that as the museum reimagined our operations and responded to the changing needs of our community, we would need to invest in implementing new and exciting programs. Therefore, the board approved a unique one-time only budget shortfall of $920,000. This included $11.8 million in expenses, which represented a reduction of $1 million from the previous year. Along with the approved one-time only deficit, the Board of Trustees, working closely with the museum's senior leadership team, committed to identifying strategic investments, expense reductions, and increased efficiencies to ensure a balanced budget in fiscal year 21 and beyond. Unfortunately, what actually occurred in fiscal year 20 was drastically different than anyone could have anticipated. Through the first 8.5 months of the fiscal year, the museum's revenue streams, especially the areas of earned revenue, performed especially well, and the museum was on track to exceed its revenue projections while controlling expenses, which would have reduced or possibly eliminated the budgeted deficit. But on March 16th, 2020, for the safety of our staff, patrons, and community, and in compliance with local and federal public health guidelines, the museum was forced to close due to the pandemic. This was the first closure in the museum's 60-year history, and nearly overnight, many of the museum's earned revenue streams, in particular admissions, private event rentals, on-site retail sales, and public programs, vanished. Anticipating the deep financial impact of the closure and to safeguard the future of the institution, in April, the Board of Trustees mandated drastic and immediate expense reductions. By June 30th, 2020, the museum had lost $1.3 million in income, but had cut operational expenses by just under $2 million. Thus, the museum concluded its fiscal year in 2020 with a greatly reduced operating deficit of just $357,000. Certainly not an ideal result, but one of which we are proud in the circumstances. In addition, other than the long-term loan from the Arizona Community Foundation from 2018, used to refurbish our art storage, the museum also ended the year with no external debt. Here's how the three primary sources of revenue performed in fiscal year 2020. Contributed revenue, which includes gifts from foundations, corporations, individual donors, fundraising events, and bequests, earned $4.3 million in fiscal year 20 against a goal of just over $5 million. This represented about 44% of the museum's total income for the year. Earned revenue, which includes admissions, retail sales, private event rentals, program tickets, museum membership, circles of support, support group programs, and other smaller sources of income, earned $4 million in fiscal year 20 against a goal of $4.6 million, representing about 42% of total income. And finally, the annual endowment draw is an amount calculated annually per industry standards, with approval by both the museum's Board of Trustees and the Endowment Fund's Board of Directors. Generous gifts from various donors provided a perpetual source of stable income to fund specific programs as well as general operations. For fiscal year 20, we drew $1.3 million from the endowment, providing the remaining 14% of operating support. As mentioned, contributed revenue streams missed their budgeted goals in fiscal year 20. While the museum's foundation, government, and corporate support streams fell short of goal by nearly $430,000, we are immensely grateful to organizations that provided generous and vital support prior to and during the pandemic, including our foundation partners, our corporate donors, and various local government agencies. Each fiscal year, the museum hosts a number of fundraising events. Although the museum was able to hold many fundraising events prior to our closure early last year due to the pandemic, additional large in-person events that had been scheduled were canceled or postponed. This severely affected the revenue recognized from our fundraising events in fiscal year 20. We are, however, especially grateful to the volunteers for those events that did take place in fiscal year 20, including Susan Emerson, Lori Florkowitz, Libby Cohn, and Lisa Portigal, who, along with their committee members, worked tirelessly on those events. Additionally, we are deeply grateful to numerous donors who graciously allowed the museum to use previously received grants restricted to specific programs instead to fund general operations. This flexibility allowed the museum to address immediate operational needs during the pandemic. While the museum's ability to reach its earned revenue potential was drastically reduced overnight by the closure of the museum and the effects of COVID-19, there were some truly encouraging highlights and successes despite these challenges. The museum reached 96% of its admissions goal prior to the closure. This had put us on pace to exceed our admissions revenue goal with 3.5 months left in the fiscal year, had we not been forced to close. We are grateful to everyone in our community who supports the museum by purchasing tickets to experience art within the galleries. The museum's flagship support group, the Arizona Costume Institute, or ACI, whose memberships and fundraisers benefit fashion design at Phoenix Art Museum, exceeded its revenue goals despite the closure, earning 105% of its goal. We are grateful to ACI's entire volunteer board, led by its executive committee, including Kathy May, Helene Pursuti, Janet Glazier, Kelly Suker, and Lisa Corridon. We are also especially grateful to the chairs of the 2019 Holiday Luncheon, Jennifer Carmer and Honorary Chair Priscilla Nicholas. The December 2019 Holiday Luncheon also exceeded all projections. Thank you to the members and supporters of ACI for all you do. Our museum membership and circles of support programs were also on pace to exceed their goals in fiscal year 20. experiencing steady growth throughout the year. Despite the COVID-19 closure, those programs finished the year at 95% and 97% of goal, respectively. We are deeply grateful to our museum members and circles of support, as well as members of our affiliate groups, for supporting the museum during these challenging times. And finally, the museum's retail sales program lost its most vital sales channel due to the museum's closure, our physical store. However, due to a dramatic growth in online sales, our retail program concluded the fiscal year at just under 93% of its revenue goal. We are truly grateful to our community who chose to support arts and culture in Arizona by shopping online at store.phxarts.org. As you might imagine, the COVID-19 pandemic represents the greatest threat to the museum's stability since the Great Recession of 2007-2008. To mitigate the impact of our closure, the museum reduced expenses to help offset the loss of revenue and an anticipated continued economic downturn. For the period March through September 2020, prior to the museum's reopening in October, the museum earned approximately $4.7 million through contributed, earned, and endowment sources. This represented a loss of approximately $1.9 million compared to the same period the previous year, a reduction of 28%. Expenses during this period, which spanned the end of fiscal year 20 and the first quarter of fiscal year 21, totaled $4.7 million, compared to $7.2 million for the same period in 2019, representing a reduction of $2.5 million, or 34%. Many difficult decisions were made to make these dramatic cuts, including painful reductions in staff, which affected every single aspect of the museum's operations. The downturn in revenue and the accompanying reduction in expenses did not end when the museum reopened in October. This fiscal year, the museum continues to experience a serious ongoing reduction in income, including, but certainly not limited to, major reductions in admissions income, retail sales, and the 100% loss of private event rentals, which has historically accounted for up to $600,000 in revenue. In addition, we have canceled or postponed all of our major fundraising events, a significant source of contributed revenue. Through November 30th, 2020, the museum had earned approximately $3.4 million, compared to $4.7 million during the same period last year, representing a reduction of approximately $1.3 million. As part of our continued reductions in operating costs and effective stewardship of the resources entrusted to us by our community, the museum's expenses for this period were $2.5 million, compared to $4.4 million during the same period in 2020, representing a reduction of nearly $2 million over just 1 year. During the first 6 months of fiscal year 21, we have seen the following trends develop. Despite implementing comprehensive safety measures, we continue to experience limited museum attendance as many seek to avoid public spaces. We currently average 1,100 visitors per week, compared to anywhere from 3,500 to 6,000 visitors per week in a normal year. We continue to see a decline in the number of new members. Many people choose to become members during a visit to the museum, so our reduced visitation has considerably impacted membership. It is unclear when we will be able to resume in-person events, such as National Theater Live, artist lectures, school field trips, and gallery tours, as well as private event rentals and large-scale fundraising events. As a result, our earned income at present is projected to end fiscal year 21 significantly under our initial budget. However, we have seen promising results in contributed revenue as donors continue to step up to help sustain the museum amidst these challenges. At present, the museum's contributed revenue streams concluded the first 6 months of the fiscal year ahead of goal, in spite of the cancellation or postponement of large fundraising events, which account for significant annual support. And finally, the museum continues to reduce expenses in any way we can. Last month, each department combed through divisional budgets and identified preliminary reductions of $1.8 million in total expenses for fiscal year 21, helping to ensure that we are able to deliver on our mission while being effective stewards of museum resources. All of us at Phoenix Art Museum are grateful for the ongoing support from our community, especially our donors, our circles of support, our museum members, our support group volunteers, and the many visitors who have stepped forward to sustain arts and culture in Arizona. You each mean the world to us. But Phoenix Art Museum is so much more than an income statement. Throughout our 60-year history, we have remained dedicated to providing access to the arts and arts education to people of all ages and every walk of life. We hope you will enjoy learning more about those successes, followed by a word from our curatorial team. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gilbert Vicario, Deputy Director for Curatorial Affairs and the Selig Family Chief Curator at Phoenix Art Museum. In FY20, the museum continued to bring the world to Phoenix and Arizona through 18 exhibitions and installations that featured art from China, India, Mexico, the Southwest, and beyond. We also expanded our collection and acquired 4 works in American and Western art, 14 in contemporary art, 38 in Asian art, and 361 pieces in fashion design, chief among them the Jeffrey Bean designs from the collection of Patsy Tarr. Phoenix Art Museum is deeply grateful to Patsy Tarr for this unprecedented donation of Bean designs. Her gift has made it possible for the museum to establish the official Jeffrey Bean archive, which will be unveiled during a virtual event this coming February, hosted by the museum in partnership with the Arizona Costume Institute. To provide a closer look at our FY20 curatorial accomplishments, our curators will now share some notable exhibition and acquisition highlights.
Hello, I'm Janet Baker, Curator of Asian Art at Phoenix Art Museum. In fiscal year 20, the museum presented many dynamic installations that explored the diverse art and cultures of Asia. Of note, Seeking Immortality, Ancient Artifacts, opened in October of 2020 and continues to be on view into autumn of 21. This exhibition creates dialogue between ancient artifacts from China, Japan, and Korea that span the 4th millennium BCE to the 1st millennium CE. It also celebrates outstanding gifts from local and national donors who have helped to create this new area of significance in the museum's Asian art collection. We are pleased to report that Seeking Immortality received a full-page review in the London-based Asian art newspaper, available in print and online. This textile was collected by Amy Clegg, a longtime museum trustee, and donated to the museum by her estate. It was featured in the museum's 2000 exhibition, Weaving China's Past, the Amy S. Clegg collection of Chinese textiles. This exhibition traveled to 2 other venues in New York City and El Paso, Texas. Looking into fiscal year 21, Phoenix Art Museum will premiere Legacy of Ceylon, Art and Photography of Sri Lanka in November of 21. The island nation of Sri Lanka, known by its colonial name Ceylon until 1974, has developed distinctive sculptural styles and broadcasting techniques over its long history. Through the colonial influence of British, Dutch, and Portuguese traditions, a new style of Buddhist painting emerged in Sri Lanka. This exhibition will feature works illustrating this art history that were gifted to the museum by Drs. Barry and Colleen Fernando. Visitors will also enjoy works from the Fernando family's private collection, particularly a recently discovered trove of beautiful, dramatic black and white photographs taken in Sri Lanka by Dr. Quintus Fernando before the family emigrated to the United States in the 1950s. Legacy of Ceylon will be accompanied by a scholarly publication, which includes articles and research by Dr. John Listapad, a scholar of Sri Lankan art, and Dr. Chandra L. Reedy, a specialist in bronze technology. We look forward to journeying through the art of Sri Lanka with you and the rest of our community later this year.
Hello, I am Dr. Betsy Fallman, the Adjunct Curator of American Art at Phoenix Art Museum. One American highlight from this past year was the launch of our new Reframe series, which is supported by a prestigious grant from the Henry Luce Foundation. The ongoing initiative invites artists and scholars from communities historically underrepresented in museum spaces to contribute their perspectives and knowledge on works in the museum's American art collection. To inaugurate the project, we've installed commission gallery labels written by Nineveh Winton, a current Andrew W. Mellon Fellow at the Hurd Museum, and Velma Key Craig, a weaver and former Andrew W. Mellon Fellow at the Hurd Museum in the North Wing. Both Nineveh and Velma are Diné Navajo, and their work provides new insights into a number of American artists from the museum's collection, including Joseph Henry Sharp's studio interior, or corner of my studio, and John McStanley's chain of spires along the Gila River. We have also installed a poem by local writer Ana Flores next to a painting of Christopher Columbus to encourage reflection on traditional narratives regarding the European conquest of the Americas. I hope you will visit the second floor of the North Wing soon to engage with these important texts. In fiscal year 20, we also grew our American art collection. One significant acquisition is a 1940 painting entitled WPA by Japanese-American artist Mine Okubo. Okubo is best known for her documentation of Japanese-American internment during World War II, and her book, Citizen 13660, is a powerful first-hand account of her own internment experiences. She received support for her art efforts under the New Deal, but almost all of that work has not survived, making WPA a significant addition to the museum's American art collection. It is also the first work by a Japanese-American artist in the collection. Looking forward to fiscal 21, I am excited to start working on the reinstallation of Philip C. Curtis and the landscapes of Arizona in the Ullman Center for the Art of Philip C. Curtis, which will be restored to its original location on the first floor of the North Wing in fall 2021. I will continue to contextualize Curtis's work with that of his contemporaries and other artistic movements to which his work is related, and am pleased that this canonical Arizona artist will enjoy greater visibility. And finally, while the major exhibition, Landscapes of Extraction, the Art of Mining in the American West, will not open until fiscal year 2022, I will be working on getting the exhibition's accompanying publication to print. We look forward to sharing more about this upcoming exhibition with you in the near future. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rachel Zebro, the Assistant Curator at Phoenix Art Museum. In 2017, Phoenix Art Museum became the proud recipient of long-term loans from the world-renowned Shore Collection. The collection was amassed over 45 years by UK-based collectors David and Hannah Lewis, and features more than 400 examples of old master paintings, 15th century devotional images, French Impressionist landscapes, and significant works from the printmaking tradition. Since 2017, a number of these works on long-term loan have been displayed in our Harnett and Ullman galleries, and as of January 2nd, prints from the collection are now on view for the first time in Arizona as part of the new exhibition, Out of Print, Innovations of 19th and 20th Century Printmaking from the collection of Phoenix Art Museum and the Shore Collection. Out of Print features some of the most revered names in art history, including Paul Cézanne, Edward Munch, Mary Cassatt, Katie Kollwitz, and James Whistler. To provide a broader, more inclusive history of modern printmaking, we've placed these works from the Shore Collection in conversation with 19th and 20th century prints from the museum's own American and European collections by women artists and artists of color, including Claire Leighton, Jean Kloss, Lee Bonteque, Raymond Saunders, Jacob Lawrence, Leopoldo Mendez, and Fritz Scholder. We hope you'll join us in the galleries soon to learn more about the social impact and technological advancements of printmaking in Europe and the United States during this modern period.
Hi, I'm Helen Jean, the Jackie Dorns Curator for Fashion Design. In fiscal year 2020, Phoenix Art Museum explored the centuries-long love affair of Western fashion designers with the richness and opulence of India. For our exhibition opening of India Fashion's Muse in February of 2020, we had an opening evening that was unforgettable, filled with live sitar playing, sari wrapping demonstrations, Indian cuisine, and dancing late into the night. The exhibition featured over 56 dressed ensembles and nearly 100 examples of accessories. A wedding ensemble filled with bangles, examples from the Gem Palace, which is India's oldest surviving couture jewelers, and 19th century Maharaja turban jewelry. The exhibition also featured a paper sari from 1967, which has survived beautifully for the last 50 years in its original form. The exhibition was also a few firsts. We had Indian fashion designer Anamika Khanna show her work at our museum, her first ever showing in the United States. We were also the US premiere for Sarah Singh's short film, I Thought I Was Dreaming, which also featured India's first international supermodel, Kirat Young. I'm excited to announce that Indian fashion designer Anamika Khanna, who was named as the most influential fashion designer in 2018 by Vogue India, has gifted one of her ensembles to the museum in honor of the exhibition India Fashion's Muse. We chose the long black jacket that's covered in the metallic thread embroidery in a pictographic style, as well as the bodice, neck piece, skirt, and sari that are covered in the Zardozi burnished metalwork. That's a burnished metallic thread that's couched onto the surface, and this ensemble took between 6,000 and 8,000 hours to hand sew. I'm so delighted that it can join the collection. For fiscal year 2021, we will explore fashion subversives, where we look at the various ways that fashion designers have subverted accepted fashion. It will open in June of 2021, and our guests will explore how denim jeans influenced youth culture in the 1950s. We'll look at trousers for women, the highly controversial bikini swimsuit, fringe fashion trends that explore individuality and nonconformity in dress. And we'll also take a look at designers who have experimented with synthetic fibers and stretch materials in order to really celebrate the natural curves of the human body. Lastly, I'm excited to share with you that objects from our exhibition, India Fashion's Muse, have been invited to join the international exhibition, Vogue in India. Curated by Hamish Bowles, who is the European editor-at-large for American Vogue, this exhibition will open in Mumbai, India in November 2021. Thank you so much for including me in this presentation today. I look forward to sharing works from this renowned collection with our audiences next year and beyond.
Hello, I'm Dr. Audrey Sands, the Norton Family Assistant Curator of Photography at Phoenix Art Museum and the Center for Creative Photography in Tucson. In January 2020, Phoenix Art Museum premiered Ansel Adams Performing the Print, the latest photography exhibition organized by the museum and CCP. The exhibition was curated by CCP's Chief Curator, Rebecca A. Senf, and draws from CCP's Ansel Adams archive. Performing the Print remains on view into June 2021 and provides an unprecedented perspective on the artist's practice. 60 photographs by Adams are grouped into sets of 2s and 3s to show how the artist created varying interpretations of his own negatives. Visitors also learn about darkroom techniques Adams perfected to produce the prints in the exhibition. Performing the Print premiered in conjunction with the release of Dr. Senf's latest publication, Making a Photographer, the Early Work of Ansel Adams, which was co-published by Yale University Press and CCP. It is the first scholarly publication on Ansel Adams produced in nearly 20 years and highlights how Adams's early decades of work influenced his signature style. In FY21, the museum will bring the next photography exhibition organized in partnership with CCP to the museum's Norton Family Photography Gallery. Freedom Must Be Lived, Marion Palfy's America will be my first exhibition for the museum and is the first major retrospective to examine Marion Palfy's work since the 1970s. The exhibition draws from CCP's Marion Palfy archive and features approximately 70 prints and archival materials, many of which have never been exhibited. Audiences will have the opportunity to learn about Palfy's identity as a social research photographer and how she paired deep sociological research with her photography practice. Each of the photographer's 4 major projects are represented in Freedom Must Be Lived, including Palfy's piercing nationwide study of children living in poverty, her decades-long civil rights activism documenting the effects of systemic racism against Black Americans, her research on the abject conditions of aging in New York, and her revelatory pictures funded by a 1967 Guggenheim Fellowship that documented the forced relocation of Hopi, Navajo, and Papago peoples in the Southwest. Public programming inspired by the exhibition will highlight work by contemporary artists examining the legacy of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement, young Indigenous writers, and others who are exploring themes related to social justice. Freedom Must Be Lived opens in July 2021, and we look forward to seeing you in the galleries.
And finally, our contemporary Latinx and Latin American art offerings continue to converge in meaningful ways in FY20 and will do so again in FY21. Although we had to postpone the Teresita Fernandez Elemental exhibition due to COVID-19, we were thankfully able to premiere it in October upon our reopening. Elemental recently closed on January 3rd and was the museum's first exhibition co-organized with the Perez Art Museum in Miami. It was also the first major traveling exhibition and the first mid-career survey of works by contemporary artist Teresita Fernandez, who is considered one of the most innovative artists of her generation. Arizona audiences engaged with Fernandez's conceptual, large-scale works that emphasize the connection between landscape and material. Fernandez uses gold, graphite, iron ore, and other minerals to speak about history and colonization and how that is embedded in landscape, resulting in works characterized by a quiet unraveling of place, power, visibility, and erasure. This coming September, Phoenix Art Museum will premiere Oscar Munoz Invisibilia by the contemporary Colombian artist. Munoz has had large-scale retrospectives throughout Europe and Latin America, but this exhibition is the first comprehensive survey of his work in the United States. It will be an unprecedented opportunity for audiences to learn more about the artist's practice and how he explores elusive phenomena of memory, history, and time through hybrid works that splice photographic processes with drawing, printmaking, installation, video, sculpture, and interactive elements. Invisibilia is curated by Dr. Vanessa Davidson, the former Sean and Joe Lampe Curator of Latin American Art at Phoenix Art Museum, and now Curator of Latin American Art at the Blanton Museum of Art at UT Austin. After its Phoenix premiere, the exhibition will travel to the Blanton Museum. From the Contemporary Art Department, we are happy to report the acquisition of The Futility of Achievement by the New York-based artist Derek Forjor. Forjor was born in Memphis, Tennessee, to parents of Ghanaian heritage. He earned his BA at Morehouse College, his MA in Arts Education at Harvard University, and an MFA in Painting at Hunter College. He's exhibited at notable institutions around the world and received commissions for public projects, including a permanent installation for New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority at 145th Street subway station and the Whitney Museum's billboard project. His work is included in several major museum collections, including the Studio Museum of Harlem, Brooklyn Museum, Perez Art Museum Miami, Dallas Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum of American Art, LA County Museum of Art, and now Phoenix Art Museum. For George, The Futility of Achievement is a third work purchased with funds provided by the Don and David Lenhart Emerging Artist Acquisition Fund. It was recently featured in the exhibition Self Must Die at Petzel Gallery in New York City, which interrogated the inevitability of actual death while pointing to the aspirational death of the artist's ego. We are thrilled to now include this work in our permanent holdings. Thank you again, Don and David Lenhart, for this amazing acquisition. Finally, Agnes Pelton, Desert Transcendentalist, continues to travel around the country. Finishing a successful stop at the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, the exhibition is now at the Palm Springs Art Museum. Since its debut in Phoenix in March of 2019, Desert Transcendentalist has garnered an unprecedented amount of national press, with 3 features in the New York Times, including being selected as one of the best shows of 2020, Art Forum, Wall Street Journal, Forbes magazine, the Art newspaper, and Art in America. The first run of the Pelton catalog is sold out, and a second printing was necessary to satisfy the demand. We are thrilled that Agnes Pelton's work has been embraced by audiences in Arizona and beyond, as she takes her rightful place in the history of American modernism. That's all from the curatorial department at Phoenix Art Museum. Thank you for joining us for the State of the Collection segment. We are grateful for your continued support. Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Tim Rodgers. I'm the Sybil Harrington Director and CEO of the Phoenix Art Museum. Thank you for joining us today on our virtual annual meeting. Although I'm glad we were able to present this information in a safe video format, I look forward to meeting you in person to answer questions, listen to your experiences, and learn from each of you. I joined the Phoenix Art Museum in July, in the middle of the pandemic. It was a strange time, to say the least, to arrive back into the Valley of the Sun and to begin a new position. But that hasn't dampened my enthusiasm and excitement for being back in Arizona and for taking on this challenge and leading the Phoenix Art Museum into the next decade. Although I came to the Phoenix Art Museum from Miami, where I served as the executive director of the Wolfsonian, which is a museum, library, and research center associated with Florida International University, I'm not new to Arizona. My family moved here in the late 1970s, and I went to Arizona State University for my undergraduate degree. From 2009 to 2015, I was the director of the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art. I'm truly happy and humbled to be back here in this position and returning to a community that really helped launch my career as an art historian and also as a museum administrator. When I arrived, the museum was confronting some of the most difficult challenges it has ever faced in its long history. For the first time in 60 years, the museum had closed its doors to the public. Not only were the staff trying to find alternative ways to bring art to the community during the closure, but they were doing so amidst drastic expense reductions. It was challenging work, but the museum was in the capable hands of a senior leadership team, a robust board, and a group of innovative and hardworking professional staff and volunteers. During an unprecedented and uncertain time, the collective museum team recognized that our community desperately needed the power of arts and culture to help heal, sustain, and inspire all of us. I want to thank Mark Koenig, CFO and COO, for his hard work and dedication over the past year. And I offer my deepest gratitude to all of our staff and volunteers for their extraordinary efforts. The impact of COVID-19 has been profound. In March, the museum closed its doors to limit and contain the spread of the virus within our community. Within 24 hours, our staff had to rethink how we conduct business. Most employees began to work remotely, and we moved almost all of our in-person programs, including storytelling events like The Whole Story, hands-on art making, and mindfulness activities, and artist lectures to a virtual space. Our popular senior coffee socials, which provide connection and meaning for our friends and members aged 65 and older, became more important than ever during this time of social distancing. Our staff also created new virtual programming. Within a few days of closure, we had created an email-based feature known as Virtual Visits, which provides unique, enriching art content that engages visitors with our collection and recommends some good books and music as well. We also sought to provide support to working artists, the majority of whom have been severely impacted by social distancing measures. Our bi-monthly artist spotlights leverage our diverse social media following and the more than 1.3 million annual visitors to our website to help bring awareness to artists within our community. Our hope is to garner new fans and collectors for these creatives who are invaluable to the arts and culture in Arizona. In October, we cautiously reopened our doors, but only after introducing a significant number of new safety measures, including a daily cap on attendance to ensure physical distancing, a mask requirement for all visitors, temperature checks for our staff, and an intense disinfection process that occurs throughout the day. We continue to improve upon these policies and procedures and frequently monitor recommendations from state and national public health organizations. The challenges of COVID-19, its impact on the economy, and the need for enhanced safety precautions have, without a doubt, driven an innovative response at the Phoenix Art Museum. And while there is light at the end of the tunnel, as more and more of our frontline healthcare professionals and more vulnerable populations are vaccinated against the virus, the impact of this crisis on cultural institutions all over the globe will be felt for much of the next decade. At Phoenix Art Museum, we have not been immune to the economic and emotional impact of the pandemic. In 2020, we experienced the immediate loss of vital admissions revenue during our 7th-month closure. The fact is that many of our community members are understandably fearful of visiting indoor public spaces, even with safety measures in place. And this reduced visitation has impacted not only our admissions revenue, but also our retail sales and membership programs. Museum rentals for private corporate events, weddings, galas, and proms evaporated overnight due to safety measures that limit or prohibit large gatherings. All told, the museum will experience a loss of millions of dollars in income directly related to COVID-19. In fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, we saw major growth in our earned revenue streams, but in just 1 year, because of the pandemic, we will see that trend dramatically reversed. To put it simply, even after the immediate public health crisis is behind us, Phoenix Art Museum, like most arts and cultural institutions, faces a long road ahead.
While the task before us, the recovery from the effects of COVID-19 on both our institution and on the communities we serve, is a monumental effort, it is only one of the significant challenges museums face. Amidst the hardship of the global pandemic, this summer, our country began a national reckoning with age-old issues of equity, equality, inclusion, and the lasting impact of structural racism. Museums are not immune to these issues that are as important to our survival as our ability to weather a global pandemic. It is an inherent part of the mission of every museum in the world to ensure it is a place that welcomes and values diverse participation. We exist entirely to serve the public, to provide all persons access to shared cultural heritages that represent the best of humanity. It is a privilege to do this work, and galvanized by the support from community advocates, our board of trustees, leadership team, staff, and volunteers, Phoenix Art Museum, along with nearly every museum in the country, is actively examining and discussing key strategies to strengthen diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. These, of course, are just a few of the many problems that face museums today. I would like to conclude on a positive note. In the months I've been in Phoenix, I've been reminded of the old adage, you do not know who your true friends are until times are tough. Well, this year has been tough on the museum, but I'm happy to report that our friends are many, and we have all felt the strength and encouragement offered by our true supporters. Local and national foundations have been particularly generous, and special mention and gratitude should be offered to Virginia G. Piper Charitable Trust, Virginia M. Allman Foundation, the Rob and Melanie Walton Foundation, Arizona Commission on the Arts, and SRP. Individuals have been extremely helpful this year, and several should be noted and thanked. Don and Judith O'Patrony, Carter and Susan Emerson, and numerous planned estate gifts. Finally, the bedrock of the museum, the members, the board, the staff, and volunteers have helped in numerous ways, financially, certainly, but in so many other ways as well. I thank all of you for welcoming me back to the community, for supporting an institution so beloved, and most of all, for helping the arts remain a vital part of the lives of people in Arizona. When I have the opportunity to meet and learn from all of you, I will come forward with a larger vision for the future of this institution. But at this particular moment, I think it's most important for us to concentrate on what lies right in front of us. I want you to stay safe, to be healthy, and to make sure that I have the opportunity to see you in the very near future.